Ein Gimel Amud Aleph. And the Gemara started yesterday. Does the husband have to hear the neder in order to be mefer? Could he be mefer unknowingly? He doesn't even know she made a neder, his wife or his daughter. And the pashtus of the mission was mashma derech midei chachamim before his wife, before his daughter leaves his house to get married, or before she gets married. So the husband and the father, they say all the dharma are mufar, and they don't know. That's the pashtus. And many other cases, the Gemara, many other sources that the Gemara brought that the pashtus is mashma that the husband doesn't have to know that what the neder was. He didn't hear about it. He just says I'm made for it. If there's a neder, I'm made for it. But the Gemara, each time the Gemara deflected the proof and said it's possible that he does have to know. He does have to have heard about it. And the one left that as a question. So far there's no proof. Rami Bechama was the one who asked the question, and even though Rabba brought proofs that you do have to, the husband does not have to hear. The Gemara always said it's possible to disprove the raya, and the more left it as a question. Now the Gemara continues. Boy, Rami Bechama. How about somebody who cannot hear? So he's a chevish, he's deaf, so he didn't hear. So if you hold before that you have to hear, then it's not a question, because you cannot, even a person who could hear, if he didn't hear the neder, he can't be mefer. So that wouldn't be a question. But it's on the other side. Intim salam abal mefer below shmiya, which is the pasha said there that the Gemara brought the whole time. The pasha was from all the mishnayos that the husband can be mefer without hearing. Okay. But even if he can be mefer without hearing, maybe if he's deaf, it's worse. When can a regular husband, somebody who could hear, when could he be made for without hearing? Because he's capable of hearing. He technically didn't hear, but he has ears. He could hear. Maybe the fact that he cannot hear, doesn't have the ability to hear, maybe he's worse. Like Abzera says, famous Abzera all over Shas. We have an aside here where it says it in all these places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 places mentioned in Shas. This is the 9th place. That's a famous call of Reb Zera. The word bila means mixing. And so about a korban mincha that he's supposed to lachatchila mix the flour with the oil. That's called blila. So it means that you have the mincha of the flour and you have the oil and you're supposed to mix it. And it says drasha to say that it's not ma'akev. If you don't mix it, it's still kosher. You're supposed to mix it, but if you don't mix it, it's still kosher. But then Abzera says that's only if it's possible to mix it. Right? But if it's so, the proportion is so much, not the proportion, but it's somewhat a big kli. You have so much flour and oil that you can't mix it well. You need a machine to mix it, like you have at a matzah bakeries. There's so much 60 esronos that you're not 60, more than 60, that you're not going to be able to mix it even if you try. It's not going to mix well. So then it's possible. Even though what's the problem? You don't have to mix it, but you have to be able to mix it. If you're not able to mix it, then it is market. That's what Zera's kalal, and the more uses it very much. That even something which is not market, as long as it's still possible, provided that it's possible to do it, even though you didn't actually do it. But if you cannot do it, it's impossible to do. So then it is market.
So a person that doesn't have hands can't bring his korban because he can't mix it. Hands.
The Kohen, if the Kohen who's doing the mincha that he doesn't have hands, well, how will he be able to bring it anyway if he doesn't have hands? If you
you have to bring it.
Whatever you have to do anyway, whatever he's doing with the mincha, that would be a technical thing. But here the case is that he can't technically mix it because it's too much. So then the fact that he didn't mix it is market. The regular mincha that you could mix, even if you didn't mix it, is kosher. But if you cannot mix it, so then it's possible. And the Gemara is using that principle to over here. That even though we said now that even though the pasuk says v'shama isha that the husband hears and he's mefer, and we say that the hearing is not ma'akev, even if he didn't hear about it, he can be mefer. He tells his wife, any neder, if you made any neder, even if he doesn't know about it, you made any neder, it's mufa, and it does work. Even if you say that it does work, it's because he could hear. So it's not ma'akev the fact that he didn't hear. But if he cannot hear because he's deaf, maybe it's worse. Odilma v'shama isha lo ma'akev, or maybe the whole thing is not ma'akev, even though it's not roy. Don't take the pasuk so literally that he has to hear. He doesn't have to hear. Amarava tashma, v'shama isha, pratla isha's cheresh. Shramina. So Perish Bryce said that the cheresh is not good. The cheresh, only if he hears, but if he cannot hear, even though he knows about it, obviously he knows about it. If he doesn't know about it, he wasn't made for it. How was he made for it? Somehow they communicated to him that his wife made another. And still, since he didn't hear, so it's ma'akev, like we said, Rav Zera, that it is ma'akev. Prat la'ishes cherish. The pasuk, that's a pasuk. V'shema isha is the pasuk we're talking the whole time. Her husband hears, and that comes to exclude the wife of a cherish that he can't hear, so he can't be mefer. Shram, we know that a cherish cannot be mefer. Even if the first question we left, the first point we left as a question, does he have to actually hear? We weren't sure, but here it says definitely that a cherish cannot be mefer because he cannot hear. Just the point of interest in the observer. Some people make a mistake in observer. They think that observer means to say leniency, that anything that's roy to do is good enough. Means the first part over here. Let's just okay. This some say that this is the chiddush of observer, that if it's possible to do it, it's not makif. As if to say anything you could do is not makif if you did it or not, which is not true. Observer is not coming to say that. And some people ask a cute question. I don't know if maybe the other answers to the question, but the question is a mistake. If you say, so I have a lulav on the table, and I could take it. It's wrong right to take it. So I didn't take it. So it's not makif. You're going to say such a thing. Or he's right to go into the mikvah. So he doesn't have to go to the mikvah. He could go into the mikvah. I can say such a thing. It doesn't make sense. And also, it's not true because Abzer never says such a thing. Abzer is not coming to say this. The way we know that Bil is not makif is because it's a pasuk. Whenever the Torah says you have to do something, you have to do it. Sometimes there's a pasuk that says it's not makif. So there's a pasuk that the Gemara learns out that Bil is not makif. The Abzer is coming to say the other part. This part is learned out of a pasuk, not because it's roy. But even though the Gemara says it's not makif, he's coming to say this part. He's coming to say kol she'ein roy lebil makefes bo. That's the chiddush of Abzer. Even if you know something's not makif, but if it's not roy to do it, like the case of the big mincha that's bigger than 60 esronim, so then it is makif. That's the chiddush of Abzer. Abzer is coming to say a chumrah. He's not coming to say a kula. And Gemara, that's what the Gemara meant. That even if you say intim saloma, that the husband doesn't have to hear in order to be mefer, but it has to be at least roy, because if it's not roy, you have Abzer's problem. As far as the halach on those two Gemaras, so we do passing like this brisa that a cherish cannot be mefer. As far as the first question, the pashas will be that he doesn't have to hear, because here it brings a brisa that a cherish cannot. If you have to hear, then you have to talk about a cherish. Then any husband that didn't hear cannot be mefer. The pashas of this brisa would be mashma that the regular person does not have to hear, like Rabba thought before the whole time. And even though the Gemara brought tichunim the whole time, but here it says that only a cherish is not good. But some Rishonim say that the Rosh is possible that it doesn't only mean a cherish. A cherish surely is not good, and a regular person we don't know. So in the Shulchan Aruch comes out of Machlokes, the Shulchan Aruch, the Mechaber, and the Ramah. Does the husband have to hear? Could husband be mefer his wife to the dorm or father to his daughters in the dorm without having heard about it? It just says, like the Mishnah, can you go to Mishnah Kipshuto? So Machlokes we've shown it. And what we have, the second Gemara, surely if he cannot hear like a cherish, then surely it's not good. But there is an interesting thing comes out of this whole. Yeah, go ahead.
When we say he hears, it means that somebody could tell him that I heard your wife made a neder. It doesn't mean that he has to hear it mamish.
Right, I think so.
Right?
But he has to have her.
He has to have her.
And yeah, and that's machlokes. In the first one, if he has to actually hear, or he doesn't have to. Even if she didn't make the neder yet, even the Gemara that's out that it's also possible that he could be made for without hearing. Good. One more Gemara about this. A person has two wives. Can he be made for the Nedarim of his two wives simultaneously? And the Rosh is also for two daughters, same thing. Someone has two daughters, they made Nedarim. He wants to be made for both of them simultaneously, only one at a time. That's the question. What's the question? Oh, sir. Maybe only one at a time. He could do both. He could be made for both of them. But the question is, if he could do it simultaneously. What's the question? Because it says the word osa. In the pasuk when it talks about being made for the Nedarim, it says osa. Her. You take that literally after her and not them.
Only her.
Right. Osa dafka or lav dafka. When it says the word her, do you take it literally or not? The word is osa. Amar Ravina Toshma, he brought a right from a different case, but it's a word osa, different category, different subject altogether. And over there there's a machlokas what the word osa means. You darshan it literally or not. And that machlokas will be here also. It says in Mashkin Shtei Sotos Kachas, that you don't give two sotos to drink simultaneously. That both of them had the same problem, that they were yichud after the husband had warned them. So then also to the husband until they prove their innocence, and Hashem is going to prove their innocence by drinking the mayim hamorim, and they're not going to die. So the question is, you have two ladies in the Beit HaMikdash. Could you do both of them simultaneously? So Tanna Kama says no, because then it makes them too confident. If there's two, so it makes them more confident. There's like a competition a little bit, I guess. That they're not going to want to give in. We really want them, if they truly were Mazana, we don't want them to die. We want them to live a long life, do tshuva, and be at tzaddikus. But in order to prove her innocence, she has to drink the Mayim Amorim, which is going to kill her if she didn't. So just to point out that the Mayim Amorim, people think that it's in order to kill her. It's not in order to kill her. She doesn't have to drink, and she could say she gets divorced, and she doesn't get ksuba, and she could live a good life of doing tshuva. We're not trying to kill her. The Torah's not trying to kill her. The Torah's trying to save her. But if she wants to be with her husband, what?
The question over here, say, I don't remember where I saw it. Says so that the Shem Hashem shouldn't be erased.
That's the
Not
reason
that
for
she
what?
shouldn't die, because Shem Hashem shouldn't be erased.
That's the reason for what?
That's the reason. שניהם ביחד, ליבה גז בחברתה. And she's not going to admit, and the Shem Shemaim is going to be erased. That's all.
But in general, that's kind of what I'm saying. That in general, the reason why the Torah made the Mayim Amorim is not in order to kill her. It's in order to save her, in order that she should be able to stay with her husband. That's because if she doesn't want to drink, she doesn't have to drink. She doesn't have to drink. We don't force her to drink. We just say get divorced, and there was no ksuba, and then find the new tshuva and find the new
Right,
husband.
so she's not staying though.
But she says I want to stay. She says I want to stay with my husband.
Right. But
So and I'm innocent. If you're innocent, you have to prove it. And Hashem says I'll prove it. I'll prove it for her.
Right.
But then the proof is going to be that if she's not innocent, then she's going to die.
The confidence comes. We're
Well,
talking
there are
about
two
two
together.
sotas
Yeah.
together.
So if there are two, so
So is she
then
confident because there's another?
because there's maybe it's called confidence, and of course the point is going to be that she's not going to want to give in. She's not going to. She'll be too embarrassed to say there's somebody else that's saying I wasn't Rizana, and I'm ready to
Or should be
drink.
embarrassing to not.
I don't know the word liba gaspa usually means that they feel stronger. They feel stronger because of somebody else over there. Or maybe it's going to be an arrogant kind of a thing that she's saying that she wasn't Mazana. I'm not going to give in that I'm Mazana. So that's the reason why the Tanna Kama says that they don't give two sodas to drink simultaneously, one at a time. And we try the whole time. We try to encourage her to give in. That if she was Mazana, say so. And we're not going to give you to drink. So if there are two, we're scared that she's going to be too confident. So we don't want that. So they drink separately. That's not he agrees to Allah by a different reason. That's not the reason. The reason is because of a pasuk. The pasuk says Vishka, give her to drink. So since the pasuk says Osa, it means only one. So it's a kasab. You don't have to say reasons. And the drash is levada, by yourself. So what happened here? Rabbi Yehuda says the pasuk Osa means literally. So he too is going to say for us when it says Heini Osa. So the father is made for the Nedarim. It says Osa, so it's dafka. According to the Tanna Kama, it has to say a reason over there because he holds that the word Osa is lav dafka. That you don't have to take it literally that it means dafka her. So here too, he's going to say lav dafka. That the father, when he's a father or a husband, when he's made for the Nedarim, it doesn't have to be only one. He could even do simultaneously. So the same way over there, so machlokus if the Osa is dafka, machlokus over here also if the word Osa is dafka or not. That's good. We go on.
You can't make a bris two bris in one after the other.
Why not?
I'm asking.
The only reason it would be
One after the other.
to do simultaneously. One after the other for sure. Because you do simultaneously.
Physically, how could you do it?
No, it means to bring in both babies together, and they both sound like him already, and the mole's ready, and he says Amamila, and he does two of them,
He does one bracha. And
one bracha and one, like you do it as a. So that's a different. Of course, it will be kosher, but over there the issue is the enos and mitzvahs chavilos. That you don't make a package deal with the mitzvahs. It's not enough covered for the mitzvah. You don't make a package deal out of it. You do each one by itself. A small covered for the mitzvah to do one at a time. So when they do have two person, so then they first do one, the whole thing, and then they leave, and then they come the second one. They do it one after. They don't do it simultaneously.
Even twins.
I think even twins. You've seen it ever? I think.
I know, but I know that
I think so. They don't do it together at the same time. I think this over there is because it's a covenant mitzvah to do each one by itself. Give it its full attention. He also talk about, I think, by married the weddings also. You don't marry two people together. It also takes away not means at the mitzvah, of course, as each person is doing it. This husband and a wife, nothing to do. But it takes away from one of them. If you do two of them together, it's going to be a whole set, a few people together. So it takes away from somebody. I think it even talks about
except you say you don't have money.
if they do it together. I think it also says by Spadim also, I think, not to be must be two people together simultaneously. And I once witnessed it, and it was one on the cheshbon of one.
Yeah.
They were two gedolim, and they made a hesped for both. And the question, it came out that one was more honored than the other. It's not That's a side subject.
Mhm.
Okay, this next Mishnah. So this Mishnah. We could talk about it simply. From when can a husband nullify his wife's Nedarim? So we know that there are two stages. One is called Arusa, one is called an Asua. We had a whole parak so far about a Nara Murasa, that she was Murasa, and she also had a father had jurisdiction over her. And since the husband also does, the both of them do it together.
Mhm.
And the person does say, first talks about the father, then it says in Mayosi Elesh and the and the husband hears and is Mayfair. And the one made a drash to say that not husband alone cannot do it, has to be together with the father. For some reason, it's going to say now that an Orus, it's partial to the Gemara, to the Mishnah, that a regular Orus cannot be made for his wife's Neder. Means, forget about the case of the father. She's already 13, 14, 15, whatever. He marries her, and first it's Eris, and then there's Nesuin.
Right.
So can a husband be made for the Dharma of his wife and a Rusa? No.
Has to wait till sunset.
Has to wait till she's in a sewer. On a sewer, only in a sewer, the husband, like in Beis Yishon the Dora, the only case that the Orus can be made for is when it's together with the father. And that is a kasha which I don't have an answer for yet. If a regular husband, when she's already a Bulgarian, she's already a big girl, so then the husband cannot do it on his own by Eris and only till she's in a sewer. So how come when she's an Amrasa, so all of a sudden the husband's a somebody? Leave it to the father. The father's the one who has jurisdiction over his daughter, and the Orus is nobody until the Nesuin. So why is he a somebody? Why do you need him also? The Torah does give him jurisdiction when she's an Arusa. But the Gemara comes out that it's only together with the father when she's a Nara. It's talking about a Nara also.
No.
In Mayosi Elish and the Re'ala is talking about the Kodman that she made another when she was still early in the Nara, and she came into the marriage. Now she got married, and she still has those Nedarim. And if it's Kodman, then Kal V'chomer, if she made another when she's an Arusa. Only over there, there's a Torah give jurisdiction to the husband together with the father.
Mhm.
But for some reason, not the case of Nisrokman. Nisrokman meant that we had that if the father dies, it doesn't get transferred to the husband. Okay, how about if the father was never in the picture? The husband married her as a Bulgaris. Can he be made for the Nador in the stage of called Erison? So it's Pasha that now. Only when she's in the
father also.
The father's out and the husband's also out.
Nobody can.
Nobody can.
Only by
Only
the
she can.
Only she can. And they can't, she can't be made for, she has to be Martin.
She has to matish, can't they?
The Neder Almano Grusha, so that's like a widow and a Grusha also. So she's already a Bulgaris, and she's not married. So she is married. She is married. A Bulgaris who's not married at all. A girl becomes 12 and a half and she's not married yet. So then surely no one's going to be made for in the dome. She's out of the father jurisdiction of her father. She has no husband. Even if she has a husband who's an Orus, even if she's there, she marries. But the Erison stage, she cannot be made for the Nadam, only by the suing.
Okay, so is the question, are they asking the question, posing the question as, how come he's out at this point? Or it seems to me the bigger question would be, why was he even in?
Right, so then they don't ask the question. I didn't see it ask the question asked yet. I just am wondering when we were preparing.
Okay.
So this question came out like, we had the whole sugya as a pasuk and now Marasa, the whole parak so far, that when there's a stage of Erison that is together with the father, then the Orus is a somebody. And you have to have his input in order to nullify it. But on his own, he's a nobody. If she be a Bulgaris and he would marry her, no jurisdiction until we come to soon. And that's very interesting. The Mishnah before at Afayim spoke about Beggar, that Yesh Yafe Koach Habal Mikoach Ab, that the Baal made for the Beggar. And the Gemara, they went into the question about, is the husband able to be made for the Bagwas? And without making much ado about it, like without making a lot of fanfare, the Gemara just says that it's talking about that it's a red arm, what's talking about our Mishnah. So I just made a preview of what we're talking about.
Okay.
Our Mishnah is partial to the Mishnah that Bulgaris, if she's very a Bulgaris and the husband marries her, for sure he cannot be made for only when she's in a sewer. But what the Mishnah does talk about, if for some reason the husband is already supporting her, he's chayv mezonos, maybe then he could be made for her even before it's in the sewer. A regular rusa not. But if there's a reason why he's chayv mezonos, even before he married, usually he's only chayv mezonos when he doesn't sin. The Orus doesn't have to support. She's in her father's house. He doesn't have to support her. When they come to sin, you come to my house, then I'm gonna. And there's Allah we had in Ksubis that from the time that he says, oh, let's get married. So there's a 12-month period that she has to say she has 12 months to get ready. And at that time, he doesn't support her. But if the 12 months comes and he's not ready to marry her, so then he has to give him a zonos, even though there's no nisuin. That's Allah in Hilchas Ksuba, that he has to give him a zonos. And now, Rabbi Les is going to say, based on that, if he has to give him a zonos, maybe that's also a reason why he has jurisdiction to be made for the Nedarim. Very interesting. After 12 months are over, after the year's over, and he still didn't marry. If she's not ready, he doesn't have to support her. And he has to understand her, why not ready to get married? But if she's ready to get married and he's not, so he has to give him a zonos. And based on the thing, he has to give him a zonos. So now Rabbi Les is going to say he also has jurisdiction to be made for the Nedarim, which needs explanation. But that's very,
But she's ready to get married, he's not ready. To
right.
her.
And he has to and he
Then
has to give him a zonos.
So-
Since he
oh,
has to
and
give him
then he
zonos,
might-
maybe
then
there's
he
a
would-
reason. Right, maybe.
Otherwise, there's no other reason why he'd be giving the zonos.
Right, right. He doesn't give his donuts as an arusa. She's by her father's house. When she comes to his house, then he starts supporting him. But if he's not ready to take her in, waiting,
And it's
so
not.
then he has then she has a then everybody agrees to that. That there's a
And then-
chivas
but-
donuts.
Well, how,
If not enough
what does it
reason,
make her ready? A year?
A
Or
year.
when or her mind?
no, a year. They give her a year. The standard is a year, 12 months from the time that he
Does
says,
it have to be a
let's
year?
get married.
Has to be a year?
They can wait less also if they're ready. They want to get married. They could get married earlier. No one's telling them to, but that was the maximum that we give the
Both agree, later.
What?
They
They could agree to do it later also, yeah, but Mr. Here, if the say you give it 12 months and then he has a timer that if you're not ready, so then I forget what happens over there. But if if he's not ready, he has to give him a bonus. So that's what the mission is talking about. So I just gave the introduction that if he wouldn't have come to 12 months, Tom and Harrison, that's not he can't be made from the dome. Only Nesua is made from the dome. And the question is going to be if he's chayv his maybe yes. And the strange thing was, and strange or needs explanation, that how come an Aramura, so the husband is a somebody, and you need his joint effort together with the father. You don't just say the father is the balabais here. He said there's also a husband, even though she's only Harrison. So why did the Torah give him a chatzi jurisdiction? And once she's a Bulgarian and he marries her, and there's the Harrison stage, he doesn't have a right to make for. Only the question comes up in our Mishnah if he's already giving her mazonas. Maybe that's the reason why. Yes. Okay, that's just introduction. Now, there's also a side point over here. How much should we give this girl? I said 12 months. There's a sugi about it. It means that sometimes it's 12 months, sometimes it's 30 days. The way we read the Mishnah, it says Bulgarish Shishas Yibes Chodesh, or an Almana, which was Shloshim Yom. An Almana means she was married already, and now she's a widow, she's the second time. So then she doesn't need so much preparation. She knows everything already. Either she doesn't need so much preparation or she has it already. So 30 days is enough to get ready for the wedding. A Bulgarian means that she was not married before. So then she needs 12 months.
What about Grusha?
Probably the same thing. Probably the same
What
thing.
happened in 3 months?
What's 3 months?
If her husband died and it's a month later, maybe if there's a baby, maybe it's going to be from.
So they waited. So they waited the 3 months.
It's 30 days.
No, 30 days from the time that the second marriage started, from the time of the kedushin of the second marriage.
After the 3 months.
He's now the second husband, right? And he's getting
Now
he gave
there's
the Eruv
30
in,
days. I
and
see.
then they give her 30 days for the Nesu, and then she's not ready, and he's not ready.
He's not ready.
So then
I
he has to
see.
give us support. So these are the two examples that the mission is talking about. That sometimes it's 12 months, sometimes it's 30 days.
Mhm.
We're talking about a case where the father's not in the picture, only the Aurus. So that's why we talk about a Bulgaris, not a Naira.
Mhm.
And a regular girl would have 12 months, and Amana has 30 days. The Gemara before a couple of pages ago had deep trouble with this because is it true that a Bulgaris has 12 months? That's not a sugi, it's a sugi subis, and the Gemara brought down over here that it could be that a Bulgaris is what we call an old maid. She's already 12 and a half. So she gets nervous. All the friends are getting married at 12. And she doesn't, and she said, what's going to be? She's going to get married. She doesn't have a wedding gown. So she gets everything ready also. She gets all her needs ready. So when she's 12 and a half, she doesn't need that. When she's 12 and a half ready, she doesn't need 12 months. So that's the issue that the Gemara talks about before, 3 pages ago, that maybe the gears are supposed to be Vishashasa. That's a side problem. It's not our issue so much. It's there.
What would the Vav do?
It would mean 2 cases. One is a Bulgaris, and that's going to be only 30 days.
Oh,
And a girl who has to wait 12 months would be a Naira, a
I
different
see,
case.
I see.
But it's not our subject so much, just to keep the subject in focus. The subject is a girl who got married, Kedushin, Erison, and there's a past by the time that she's already eligible to get food from the zonas from the husband, even though he didn't do Nisuin. That's what the mission wants to say, case.
Yeah.
What the technicalities are, the Gemara took care about before. If it's 12 months, if it's 30 days, good. So what's the halacha? does the husband have the jurisdiction over the Nedarim since he's supporting her? Rabbi Eliezer says yes. Rabbi Eliezer, since he's the one who's supporting her, for some reason that also gives him jurisdiction to nullify her Nedarim. No, there's no such thing. In the Balmefer, actually take on a slur so doesn't make a difference if he's supporting her. Even if he's supporting her, he doesn't have jurisdiction to nullify her Nedarim until Nisuin. And they don't argue on the whole halach of the Torah that Naram Marasa, you have the father and the husband that they agree to. But if it's not a case of a Naram Marasa, so then the husband on his own is only after Nisuin. Okay. Amar Rabba. Rabbi Eliezer, Mishnah Achrona, Mishnah Rishona, Amar Davar Recha. Rabbi Eliezer on our Mishnah that says that once he's paying Mazonos, he has jurisdiction over the Nedarim, is the same Shita as, I'm sorry?
Like in a sewer.
Like in the Suah, okay. Maybe. And the Mishnah Rishona in a different halacha, we're going to see soon, the Mishnah Rishona, Mishnah Achrona means the original Mishnah, and then they changed it. It was a original, we'll see right away what it's talking about. So this halacha that Rabbi Eliezer says that once he's paying Mazonos, he can be made for, and as Abnissan says, the same way as if she'd be in a Suah, is going to be the same shita as we find the Mishnah Rishona talking about a different issue. And we'll see right away. The Tanakh.
The Tanakh is the Mishnah.
The Tanakh is the Mishnah of the Mishnah Rishona.
The Mishnah of the Mishnah. What do you mean? Of the Mishnah?
It's the Mishnah which is going to bring down the Mishnah. The Mishnah Rishona means the original teaching, and the Mishnah Achrona means the later teaching.
And this
now we're going to bring the Mishnah where it says all that.
both?
Yes. The Tanakh. A Mishnah, where is that? Probably Ksubas?
Yeah,
Ksubas non zayin. The Tanakh. Notice in the Psul Yubis Chodesh Lefanis Atzma. This is what we're talking about. That a Psula, a virgin, she has 12 months in order to get herself ready for the wedding. And if it came to 12 months and he's not ready, he get Yubis Chodesh, 12 months came and he's not marrying her. So she has a right to get supported. She eats from his money. He gives her, he supports her. That's going to be our subject. He's a Kohen. And usually only on a Suah, when the marriage is completed, does the wife of a Kohen eat Truma. But during the Erusin, she doesn't eat Truma.
Because she wouldn't, or somebody from the household, she's not considered really in the household because she's still in her father's house.
So the Gemara says that the Gemara says that's a nice point. The Gemara says not over here.
She could be a slave. A slave could be.
Right, because but the Gemara says that there's nothing special about a wife inherently to be able to eat Truma. She's not a Kohen. So just because her husband's a Kohen, why should she eat Truma? The reason is because he acquired her. It's called Miklas Kaspel. Since the marriage is also Kinyan Kesef, so it's the same way that if you'd own a slave, the slave is entitled. So the wife, not because she's a slave, but she's Miklas Kaspel, he also acquired her to Kinyan Kesef. So that's also included that she could eat Truma because of him. When does that happen? When did she become Miklas Kaspel? No, by the Erusin. What is Erusin? Erusin is Kedusha. Yeah, he gives the ring by Erusin. Nisuin means.
Oh, it's a good. I remember. Gezerim.
Right.
The father, the household where she is.
Right.
Okay.
That's one reason. So really, in the Raisa, Arusa could eat Truma, but in the Rabbanan she cannot eat Truma. Why? So there are one or two reasons. One reason is because of Levi Yaakov's son, because she's at home. She's by her home. And if the Kohen, the husband of Oris, is going to send her Truma, because he wants to give her a present. He's not tied in his own, but he wants to give her a present. So everyone's going to, brothers and sisters are going to come. The Kala got a present from the Chassan, such nice Ragalach. So they're going to also eat it. And there's Truma. So we don't want Truma being given to Ashes Kohen in her father's house. When she's in a Suah, she comes to the father's house, and then there's another reason the Gemara says, because it might be a Mekachtos, that it might be, but in the Suah, we'll find out that's not what he meant. That they might find a mum, and then it comes out that marriage is not a marriage. So she was eating Truma because she was Miklas Kaspel. The whole thing was a mistake, maybe.
He'll find a moment for her.
Right. Because they didn't have the Suah yet.
Wedding's off.
Right. So that's what the Gemara says over there. But the Raisa, she could eat Truma and Miklas Kaspel, but Rabbanan. Now it came 12 months and he still didn't take her. She's waiting to get married. She's waiting to be married, and he didn't take her. So he has to support her, and she's also allowed to eat Truma already.
Okay.
That's interesting. She's still at her father's house. Right. And whatever Chashav he still had. But since he's Chayv B'Mazonos, she's allowed to eat Truma. Okay. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The next 5 lines, If you want to, we could skip. We can do it also. It's not necessary for the Gemara. We'll do it. We'll come back in a second. Just to keep the flow, if we could, if we may.
But we also didn't, so far we didn't get to the Mishnah Rishon.
Zoom Mishnah Rishona.
Where does it say that?
If you skip the parentheses.
Hmm?
1, 2, 3.
Oh, your parentheses.
Yeah. Zoom Mishnah Rishona.
Yeah.
What we just said is the Mishnah Rishona. What we just
That whole
said.
first thing,
What we just said, that the woman who was not married, the husband didn't take her in after 12 months and has a right to get supported from him, she also has a right to eat truma. That's the Mishnah Rishona. That was the original teaching.
but it said that he could feed her, right?
He has to feed her and she may eat truma.
So, I mean, in terms of Rabbi Eliezer, isn't just the fact that he has to feed her, is not good enough? What was the truma have to do?
The Mishnah is not talking about the Nedarim over here. The Mishnah, what does that do in the Nedarim? The Mishnah is telling you what it wants to tell you. Our Mishnah wants to tell you about the Nedarim. This
Oh,
Mishnah
it
talks
talks
about
about
truma.
truma. Okay.
And what the Gemara is going to do is going to say, Amud Davar Echad means that he spoke about Nedarim, he spoke about the Truma. Both of them are saying the same thing, that once it's 12 months past, then he's chayav to support her, so she's considered an Asua, like
Oh, just like Chayav to support her, she can eat truma.
That's what the Gemara is going to find, the comparison between them.
I see.
Mishnah Rishon held that once 12 months and he's supporting her, she also may eat Truma.
Mhm.
Bezin Shalach Reim, but then a later Bezin argued and said, no, Ein Isha Chelas B'Truma, Ad She'tikanos L'Chuppah. It doesn't make a difference if he's supporting her. She may not eat Truma until she comes into his house. Right? So what did Rabbi say? Let's go back to Rabbi. I just made both of them in blue to show that he's saying the same thing. Rabbi Lezer said, Rabbi said, Rabbi Lezer, Mishnah Rishon is the same thing. Rabbi Lezer, no, I made it blue. I should have made it yellow. I made a mistake. It's not good. No, I should have. I did it well. This was the Mishnah Achrona. I should do the Mishnah Rishon. The rest of the Mishnah Rishon in yellow. To be, that's what he meant to say. But Amud Davar Echad, he said, this is the Mishnah Rishona. So Rabbi said that the Mishnah Rishona and Rabbi Lezer said the same thing. The Chachamim and the Mishnah Achrona said the same thing. And Rabbi Lezer and the Mishnah Rishona said the same thing because they said once it's 12 months, so we give it the status of a Nesua. Rabbi Lezer was talking about a Neder, that now he's jurisdiction to be made for Neder. The Mishnah Rishona was talking about that she could eat Truma. Let's make this also yellow already. So Mishnah Rishona, this was all a big statement in between that of parentheses. But the point is to say that once she's being supported, after the time comes, 12 months, 30 days, whatever it is, and she has the right to be supported, so the Mishnah Rishona said she made Truma, and Rabbi Lezer said he's made for Nedarim. The Chachamim of our Mishnah, and the Mishnah Achrona, they also say the same thing, that you may not eat Truma until you come into the house, till you come to the chuppah, and you may not be made for the Nedarim until you come in. That's what Rabbi said. These Mishnayos are, what would we say? Interdependent, whatever, they're the same thing.
What is based in Shalach?
Achreim, the later Bezdin.
Oh, Achreim.
That's the opposite of Mishnah Rishon. We'll call Mishnah Achrona,
I
like
see.
a later Mishnah, a later teaching. That was Rabbi. All this was Rabbi. That he made that the two Mishnayos are interdependent or the same idea. And Abai says maybe not. Amalei Abai Dumalohi. Maybe they're not dependent on each other. They're not. The better word than dependent, whatever you might say. There's a better word than that. Lohi, maybe not. It's not dependent on each other. Ad kam lakashmina Mishnah Rishona eldo lemecha betruma d'Rabbanan. Avon adom d'Oraisa ein malo means by truma it's not so bad to give this woman to give her truma because as we said a couple of minutes ago that with the Raisa mitnas kaspel every arusa is allowed to eat truma. It's only zed d'Rabbanan. So the issa for an arusa to eat truma is only issa d'Rabbanan because she's really married to her because she's mitnas kaspel b'kohen. So for issa d'Rabbanan he said once it's 12 months we're going to take off that issa. He's going to pay. He's going to support it. He can give it truma also. We talk of this d'Rabbanan because we wanted to, but we can't take off this of the Raisa. Means what's going to give him jurisdiction to be made for the Nedarim? But the Raisa he can't be made for the Nedarim. Only once he comes into the only in Beis Yishan Nedarim. But the Raisa and Norris cannot do a forest Nedarim. So what does it help me that she's married 12 months?
The neder itself is the Raisa.
And it means to take off the neder. You need a Raisa to take off the neder. If he's gonna be made for the neder, she's gonna be transgressing her neder. But the Raisa wasn't nullified.
Uh-huh.
Because he's not a Nesua. She's not a Nesua. It wasn't basic Shah. So just because the Mishnah Rishon over there said that she made Truma doesn't mean that they agree to Rabbi Lezer. We don't know what Rabbi Lezer means. How come Rabbi Lezer is going to say that she could eat, that he can make for the Nedarim is a Daraisa? So just because the Mishnah Rishon said as far as Truma goes, that's Issa Rabbanan. Maybe they don't agree that it can be for Nedarim because Issa the transgressor Neder, there's Issa the Raisa, and you can't get it off only without Torah, which is going to be the Raisa. But Kam Lo Shamat Rabbi Lezer El Gavin Edom Kibir Pinchas which made the Rabba Dama Kolana Deras Al Bas Balino Deras About Truma Filim Rabbanan Nami Lo Wachla. What's the svara of Rabbi Lezer? Now the Gemara seems to say the svara of Rabbi Lezer. Why does Rabbi Lezer not say that after 12 months he's getting supported? That has to do it. Why does it do after first Nedarim? She's not married yet. She's not in the Suah. How come Rabbi Lezer holds that he could be made for Nedarim? Because it's as if the woman said, "I'm making this neder on the condition that my husband agrees to it." If she would say so beferish, nothing to do with the Torah first Nedarim. The woman would say, "Oh man, I'm making a neder on the condition that so and so agrees." If they don't agree, I never made the neder. So you can do that. You can make a condition in your neder. So we look upon every woman once she's being supported. She looks at her husband as her support. Once he's supporting her, I don't want to do things against his will. So I'm not making the neder only if he agrees. That's the svara to say that once she's being supported by her husband, she could be made for the Nedarim. Of course, you need a deraisa, but this is also the deraisa. If she makes such a condition, I'm making neder on a condition. That's okay. The Torah recognizes that. You can make a condition. So, since whenever a woman makes a neder, she's always doing it on the condition that her husband will agree. So
are you saying al das bala he nidras?
Yes. That's Rabba's klal. Any woman who makes a neder always is doing it with the intention that her husband will agree. If her husband agrees, she goes to the store to buy, says a nice dress. I'm buying the dress in condition my husband likes it. What am I going to bring it back? So she makes a neder. I'm not going to eat apples. She doesn't say so, but it's as if it's spoken
that he agrees.
and he agrees. And when does she start having that mindset? From the time that she gets supported.
Maybe you should such tzedekis.
In this case, if she's not married, but she's still getting resigned, she has more respect to her.
It could be the Gemara uses it in other places also, that every woman, not only over here, whatever the Gemara says this over here.
We don't have to come onto the whole issue of Haftarah.
Then you wouldn't have House of Dharm then it would be. The Gemara uses this whenever it uses a Rabbanan, like you're going to say that even without that, there's it's not going to be going with when the husband's being made for, it's not, I'm just saying a nice thing, that when it comes out, that when the husband's being made for, in these cases, it's not really utilizing the Torah's mechanism called Hafaras Nedarim. She said, I'm making it on a condition my husband agrees. And he says, I don't agree. There's nothing to do with Hafaras Nedarim. It might even be retroactive.
It's not an ender. It was never.
It's not even there. Right. So it means retroactive then. It's not only it's interesting that this far is going to be a whole different insight into this case. That's not going to be regular, what we call it Hafaras Nedarim. Okay, but anyway, what does the Gemara say? So these two things are not dependent. You have these two yellows over here. Rabbi Lezer Mishnah says that he could be made for maybe not because he says she's considered married, but because the wife is already doing it al da'ato. The wife is doing it only if he agrees. And this other Mishnah where it says that she can eat truma is because the whole list is only Yisad Rabbanan, and they will make it once he's supporting her, so they took off the Yisad Rabbanan. Even though the Yisad Rabbanan still applies, that she might keep it to her brothers and sisters, and he might find the mum eventually. But the whole Shash Rabbanan, once it's 12 months, and he's supporting her, so they allowed him to support her with truma also.
So it's two different reasons for that.
Right, that's what Rabbi is saying. Don't say that they're dependent on each other. Rabbi started off saying, Amud Davar Echad.
When you say interdependent, doesn't it just mean the same reason?
Right, and Rabbi is saying they're not the same reason. Rabbi said that they're dependent, they're the same reason. That, and like Rabbi Nissen said, that they're considered a marriage. You consider 12 once again supported, not because of these two different svaras. Something common denominator, that it's considered a marriage. I don't know what the svara is. Why should that be that just because he's supporting her, she's considered an asua?
Well, it gives him some kind of power.
Okay, but that's a kasha like this, right? If it doesn't be Abai's reasons, then we don't know what the reasons are.
Abai is saying it's like apples and oranges. The
Yeah,
two rice and
right,
the Rabbanan,
right.
you can't compare them.
Right, and this each one has their own reason. This is going to be because she's doing it al dato, and this reason is because we took off this Rabbanan, because the whole thing is only anyway in this Rabbanan.
Yeah.
So we can take it off.
Very
So therefore, it's not interdependent. And the Malis are like that. Just to go back to what we skipped.
I'm sorry, so what's the very last thing about Truma?
About Truma,
I
I
feel
feel it's true Truma's Rabbanan, but maybe they didn't take off Rabbanan either. It could be that Rabbi Lezer Bar Mishnah says that once she's getting supported, she makes the neder al dato. He doesn't necessarily have to hold that. They took off the Isser Rabbanan to eat Truma. A Rusa cannot eat Truma of her husband, even after 12 months.
He wouldn't agree.
Right, maybe he doesn't agree. That's what Rabbi is saying. Each one
He's saying
has to agree with the other one. Rabbi said that and Rabbi is saying, no, the apples and oranges. Rabbi says both of them are the same thing. They're interdependent, and Abai says they're not. Each one is a svara for itself. They're not dependent on each other. You can hold of one and not hold of the other
But
one.
he could hold.
He could, but doesn't have to.
Oh.
It means that the one who holds the
It's
blue
easier
could
to-
hold
I
the.
just thought you could say Rabbi Eliezer is saying that it's a different reason. Even
and-
though over there she can eat truma, which he agrees to.
Maybe he
that's-
doesn't. Maybe he doesn't agree. There's no reason to say he agrees anymore. Let's say
you
he's
can't
a.
prove that he-
There's no reason to say they agree. The blues can all like the yellows. This blue can all like this yellow. This blue can all like that yellow. They're not dependent. They're not the same story. They're two different stories.
Okay.
Just to go back, we finished. Just to go back to the Mishnah that is not our subject, I think.
Yeah,
It just said
the
over there that
parentheses.
if 12 months passed, so then she's supported by the husband and she could eat truma. So in parentheses, it says that a yavam is not like that. If the woman died,
What's not like?
a yavam.
A yavam
Back to
is not like
your bumbers. The yavam, her husband died, and now she's going to get Yibum. So does the yavam have, the yavam is a Kohen, the husband is a Kohen, and the yavam is a brother is a Kohen, and the woman is not a Bas Kohen? Can she eat truma because she's now waiting for the yavam? She's a Shemeres yavam. Can a Shemeres yavam eat truma?
So
So it
it's
says
even
no.
more like she had been eating truma.
She had been eating truma, now she can't anymore. The husband died, and she's not yet married to the yavam. When she gets married, she could, but right now she can't. And it's going to say that even if she was 12, even 12 months passed, and the yavam still didn't take her in, she cannot eat truma. It's not going to say that. That doesn't say
Because
that much.
why?
but-
Because there's a possibility he would do.
because yavam is not yet a marriage. Maybe there's more to it, but even though a urus,
And in the first
after
case where he
12 months.
wasn't a yavam, what? it
but
was
it's
because the
12
time
months,
is-
12 months, and here, even though it's 12 months, it's not.
Even with 12 months, he doesn't have to
He,
give her.
he doesn't, he
sodas.
can't, he maybe, he think he does have to, but he doesn't have to, he cannot give her truma. We're not gonna allow him to give her truma, he has to give her chulin. He has to support her, but he does not, he cannot give her truma. I think is what it says. Let's see the words. But the yavam that he did not yet marry her does not give truma. He might have to feed her, but he cannot give her truma. And it says that it doesn't even make a difference. That's how it says. It says she was waiting 6 months for the husband to marry. The husband died as an orus. He didn't even do the suing. The husband, the first husband died during the erusin. He never did the suing.
The first
and
husband
died
died.
during the erusin. He never consummated the marriage. He never brought her into her house. And 6 months she's waiting. And then she's waiting 6 months by the yavam.
For the yavam.
And not only 6 and 6. One day less than a year. If it would have been already a year, she would have started eating by the husband. But it was one day less. And then he died. And now you have the 1 day of the yavam. So altogether you have 12 months. And 1 day after the first day of the being married to the first husband, he died. And now she has the rest of the 11 months and 29 days by the yavam. Still, it's almost a year. Still, enochelas betruma. What if she did all 12 months by the husband? So the Rosh says that also, because it's not even a bigger chiddush. It says 6 and 6, or 1 day
12
and
minus one.
1, 12, yeah. But it doesn't say the biggest chiddush, even 12 months. Even if she would have had 12 months by the husband and then he died, and now the yavam is the one who's waiting to marry her, he can also cannot. There's the Rosh over here, and there's to read the words over here. Even if it would have been all 12 months was by the husband and then he died, also the yavam cannot give her truma. But in that case, she would have been eating truma. She would have been eating truma already, and then she has to stop. He's still on a case where yavam doesn't get any truma at all. But if it would have been 12 months, she would have gotten truma as the husband's wife. But then he died, and now she stops getting truma. So it talks about a case where she doesn't get truma at all. But the Mishnah, this parenthesis just means to say that the yavam does not give her truma, even if it was 12 months. No matter if it was partly 12 months, mostly 12 months, and then the Rosh says even if it was all 12 months by the husband, the yavam, or 12 months by the yavam either. I think that part also. I think that even 12 months, but I think that even 12 months,
Midwife, she's not allowed to
Midaraisa, she's not allowed to.
once the husband dies.
Because it's not called Kinyan Kaspo of the Yavam.
Yavam.
And the Zika, whatever, the Zika is not enough to give food. I don't remember the city over there in Yavamas. So the Yavam doesn't give her truma. The Rosh doesn't say, even if it was 12 months in front of the Yavam, that he doesn't say, I didn't look into it. But this is not negated to our proof, that's why I took put in parentheses, because that's not our subject over here. We just want to know the fact that a husband could give a truma after 12 months. Does that have, with the Mishnah Rishona, does it have something to do with Rabbi Lezer of our Mishnah that says after 12 months it could be mefer? Rabbi says it's the same subject. Abai says it's not. One is about doing it al das bala. One is about the truma to arusas only rabbanan. Yashikol. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good Shabbos.
Yeah,
And what's the Shabbos? Quarter to seven?
47.
Yes,
Well,
thank you.
This is, and over now.
Usually-